Have you ever questioned everything you ever learned until now? You are not alone. Welcome to Mystical Mavericks, a tribe that embraces your uniqueness and superpower. Discover how you can access your innate gifts and create a reality of fulfillment, purpose, and passion. Are you ready to go within to win? Discover the keys to success on The Mystical Maverick Show.
Bonjour, Mystical Mavericks. I am so glad you are all here to listen to this fabulous episode with none other than Dr. Fab Mancini. So we are so grateful. Dr. Fab Mancini is America #1 health and lifestyle media expert, mentor to CEOs, Hayes House, international best-selling author of The Power of Self-Healing, and host of his TV series, Thriving in the New Normal. Popular radio show Self-Healing with Dr. Fab and podcast The Fab Life. Dr. Fab is also the best-selling author of Chicken Soup for the Chiropractic Soul, an internationally acclaimed educator, consultant, business leader, speaker, world-renowned chiropractor, and president emeritus of Parker University. He has been featured on Dr. Phil, The Doctors, Fox News, CNN, CBS, ABC, NBC, Univision, Telemundo, and others. He has been interviewed in various documentaries and has received honors, including Heroes for Humanity, Humanitarian of the Year, CEO of the Year, and induction into the Wellness Revolutionaries Hall of Fame. Dr. Mancini is also a graduate of the prestigious Institute for Educational Management in the Graduate School of Education at Harvard University. Most recently, the president of Mexico named the library at UNIV Mexico's new leading university after him. Wow. For more information, go to drfabmancini.com. Dr. Fab, welcome. Thank you so much for sharing your light and wisdom with us today. Just share some of your success and how did you on your path, how did you unlock your own, your own purpose? That would be beautiful.
So in my past, one of the most defining moments was coming close to dying at the age of 16. I went back to Colombia, South America, where I was born after 3 years of living in the United States. And there was a robbery that night where we were staying with my aunt. She had just built a beautiful new house, and the robbers came in the middle of the night expecting to find a safe. But they went into my room and they tied my hands, tied my feet, hit me with the back of a gun, took my socks off and put them in my mouth. And they kept beating me because I had no idea where the safe was. And then they went to the room next door where my brother was sleeping. Him and I went down there. And then they took the gun and broke his head. And they came back with their hands full of blood and said, "We killed your brother. Tell us where the safe is, or we're going to kill everybody in this house." And my aunt was there with her 2 little children. My uncle was out of town. So by some miracle, after hours of that, they left. And the neighbors called the police and we took us to the hospital. My brother was alive, but he had 27 stitches in his head. And that night, the reason that it was defining is because for me, it all started recognizing that there is no guarantees that we will be here tomorrow. and that every day counts. And at 16 years old, that could have been the end of my life. And what would have been my legacy? What would I have done? So ever since that time, I made a commitment to myself that I will live my life like there is no tomorrow, that I will go to sleep every night being grateful for the opportunity that I have today. And if I woke up the next morning, I will wake up grateful because I get another day. So that belief system, that philosophy of mine was the foundation for really what Eckhart Tolle calls being present, being in the moment. Wayne Dyer and I used to have these conversations because Wayne was always very big proponent of being in the moment, living in the moment. But most people, they're living in the future because they're thinking about everything they want, or they're living in the past, regretting or beating themselves up for what happened. And you can't do anything about the past, and you definitely cannot do anything about the future. So why not be in the moment? So that foundation helped me not take for granted myself or anyone in my life. That in itself is a key to great relationships, is not to take those people for granted. And then in business, it made me realize that all I have was today. I can't postpone until tomorrow or next week or next month. I'm going to do this. I have today, and I have to do everything I can today. It's a sense of urgency that really I developed over the years. And now I'm 58, so you can imagine this was over 40 years ago. And that foundational thing was really, in my opinion, the foundation for everything that I have become as a human being.
And it's, I mean, what you shared already had the complete map, to be quite honest. I mean, what to say about this? What do I have to say about this? When you come close to death, which is the wake-up call to unlock what you're supposed to be doing here. And thank God you woke up, because I know, in fact, that some entrepreneurs, they have some defining moment and they still don't wake up.
Well, they become victims.
They become victims, and then it's another program and they're back in the matrix. But the fact that you somehow, it must have been, and I don't know what your beliefs are as far as, you in the samsara, when you come back and suffering, and why not? That's a different show perhaps, but somehow it was done for you so you could help people today. Somehow it was perfect. Somehow, and this is, call it miracle. I mean, I don't know what to call it other than that, because nobody have an answer why this happened to you. And now here you are doing what you are doing. Saving people's lives you are doing. So as you self-realized, because you have, since we brought up the self-actualization and self-realization, since the self woke up like this in you, and since others might not have what you've been giving, this awakening like this in instant, because it didn't took you years, it just woke you up. What would you share? I mean, what would be the wisdom that you could inspire to say, you know what, you don't need a kind of event like this. You can't wake up now, but this is maybe the suggestion, or blah, blah, blah. What can you say to those people that needs to wake up without a traumatic event?
I would say one thing, and that is the thing that I believe after evaluating that experience of all these years. Why did I use something that was traumatic, something that could have victimized me, something that could have been very emotionally negative in my life? And I believe it goes back to Albert Einstein when he said that it is not the circumstances that define the person, but it's how we respond to it. And how I chose to respond to that experience was by simply asking a question. What does this mean for me? This experience for me, sitting in that hospital late at night, meant that I needed to reflect and I needed to come to the conclusion that my life could have been over. And I asked the question, what is this experience trying to teach me? What is it trying to show me, reveal to me? And most people, unfortunately, have circumstances like during the pandemic, we had a lot of people that lost their jobs. And some of those people realized that was a blessing in disguise because they were not happy with their jobs. In fact, according to our latest poll, over 80% of Americans are not happy and are disengaged as to what they're doing every day in their work. So somebody took that job away from you. Now you can either go and become an alcoholic or a drug addict or blame the world for everything that happened to you, or you can say, maybe this was a sign that I've been praying or hoping for, that I needed to do my own business. Something has been burning in my gut that for 20 years I've been wanting to do this, or I needed to change industries. This industry is taking the best out of me. I want to go into an industry that is more uplifting, more exciting, more passionate. So for me, when I ask that question, so reflection of the activity, the circumstance is critical, I believe, to get that enlightenment. You have to ask the question, rather than stay in the experience, get into the idea of why this experience came to me now and what is it supposed to be, because I share with people that once you wake up every day realizing that the universe is conspiring always for your benefit, always, even at your worst moments, even at your most difficult, saddest, painful moments, is always conspiring for your well-being, for your benefit, for you to reach the potential that you have inside of you, that you may not even be aware of, but we know that you were meant, all of us. I've been asking that question for years. I'm speaking in a room and I asked the question, how many of you right now feel that there is more to you that you've been able to live up to this moment? That there's something else out there that you can do better, more of it. And almost everybody raises their hand because we intuitively know that we're not living our potential, right? And we've had this movement of personal development over the years, and it's helped some people, but unfortunately, not the majority of the people, because most of the people have fell into the understanding that Albert Einstein tried to warn us, that circumstances is what dictates your life. If all of a sudden I'm born in a household that doesn't love me, I'm not lovable for the rest of my life. If I'm born in a household that doesn't have a lot of finances, I'm never going to have any finances in my life. If I'm born in an environment that doesn't have a lot of connections of people and relationships, I'm never going to do great things because I don't hang around that circle. And all of that is false. All of that is not even true. But for most people, unfortunately, their circumstances become the reality. And the truth is that circumstances are only there to push you to the reality that you were meant to have, not the one that you're living.
You should speak for a living. Yeah. I like to crack a joke because when we laugh, something, have you noticed? And there is, of course, a science behind it. It's a biohacking science that says that your own self direct that. But when we laugh, it's so interesting because the mind completely stops. There's no thought. You cannot laugh and think in the same time. And it's so interesting. But I enjoy, I enjoy a lot of you, and I'm very grateful that you are here and sharing this, which is the truth is not popular, you know. It's getting popular now as the age of enlightenment is pushing through that veil of ignorance. It's getting a little bit more popular, but however, is very important that you're here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm. This mind, and you can take what I say and reject and take and do what do you, because it's a good it's important to share. There's circumstances, now we're back at that, and of course I want you to share about you and your journey here and your purpose is very important. You were sharing about circumstances. What are circumstances other than what's being fed to the mind since birth, their program, the conditioning? And this science, this new science called epigenetics, right? Beyond the gene, that in fact, the 99% that we are locked about, their phantom DNAs. And then there's that tiny percent, which really it's what we are, that spark, the universe within us, that is all of our potential. But unfortunately, like you said, most people are caught into their mind. And so they cannot control, the outside reality. They can only be these things and this chaos, this chaotic. So that being said, is there any tools, indication, instrument, practices, teaching that you develop now that you share with others, or in a different angle that you practiced or you still practice today to be able to pierce that phantom DNA and go straight to the source? So you still today be this real self, this light. Can you share a little bit of that, the tools that you might use or you created for others now so they can enlighten?
So to me, the formula for enlightenment and the formula for reaching one's potential, the formula for really being your authentic self, is to understand that it all begins with shifting your belief system, your mindset, which is what a lot of people call today my thoughts. I need to shift my thoughts. I need to change my thoughts. Once I change my thoughts, it leads me to a new behavior that my old thoughts would have considered because it wasn't even a possibility. But when you change a thought, it gives you the idea or the understanding that may be something different that I can do. And when you do something different, it allows you to attract a different outcome. And therefore, you can change who you are, transform who you are. So, in the world of science, which has been my world for over 35 years, I remember in the early days, we used to fund and be very excited as the world of genetics. And this was primarily in the 80s and early 90s. And then we started understanding the world of epigenetics. And the epigenetics is where we started looking at the cell and we realized that the DNA, the genetic makeup of the cell, which we used to think made up 80 or 90% of who we become, it was the opposite. It was less than 15%. But what made how that cell behave, change, or work was the environment around the cell. So that environment around the cell, if we change it, altered it, we notice that our genetic makeup did not manifest the way that it was meant to be. So I give you an example. Let's say that your grandmother had breast cancer. And now as a mother, right, as a daughter, you think, oh, I'm going to develop breast cancer. And then you have a daughter, and then she's going to think, I'm going to develop breast cancer. It's genetically part of our history. That's why doctors, hospitals, they ask you, a lot of questions about your history. They're still in the old mindset. It has nothing to do with it. Very little, less than, according to Bruce Lipton, which is one of my favorite people. Bruce is one of the top scientists in the world, and he says less than 15% are genetically inclined. So what we found is that genetically, we all have what is called a predisposition towards an illness. So if your grandma had a breast cancer, as a daughter, you may have a predisposition for breast cancer, but it doesn't say you're going to have it. It just says you may. So what we learned over the years is that all that the person had to do was change the way that grandma thought and the behaviors that grandma had to prevent breast cancer from ever developing in that body. So they started understanding that grandma was very negative in nature. Grandma worried all the time. Grandma judged people all around her. Grandma beat herself up because of past experiences. So then the daughter says, you know what? I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to start loving people. I'm going to start thinking positive. I'm going to start doing all that. And in fact, I'm going to change my lifestyle to be very different than grandma. I'm going to eat differently. I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to do all the things that I know are good for me. Now, that daughter has a much lower chance of ever developing breast cancer. Wow. Now, imagine the daughter now. The daughter looks at at the mom and says, I'm going to go even further. And that's how genetically you can actually alter the history of your past illnesses. They're not meant to be your illnesses. They're just meant to be as a point of reference for you to be aware that maybe I need to change the way I think and the way I do. So anyway, so going back to your question, I think that for me, when I saw the world of epigenetics take over, I started realizing something in the personal development world, that one of my first individuals that impacted me in that world was a person named Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn used to say, we become the sum of the 5 people that we surround ourselves with. Now, ever since he said that, we have now studies that your roommate in college, right? Just a roommate in college, you start behaving like that person just by sharing a dorm for 6 months to a year. All of a sudden, you start dressing like them, behaving like them, eating like them, sleeping like them, liking the same music like them, having the same period like them. I mean, crazy, because epigenetics is around us every single day. So I tell people, you have to begin with you. Changing your own thoughts and your own environment, and then start with the people around you. If you have people in your life that are trying to keep you, like sometimes it's funny because you go and you have a high school reunion, 10 years, 20 years, right? And then all of a sudden you realize that most of your friends have not changed, right? They are still the same they were in high school. Now, life has changed 20 years, 30 years later, and they judge you because now you're not the same person you were in high school. Oh, you were the crazy one. You were the wild one. You were the ones that always were at the parties. And now you don't drink. You're very health conscious. You're a professional. You do all these things. So now they want you to be that person because that's who they remember. So we have to be okay in releasing people, environments that are holding us back to who we were and allow us to actually push us to who we're meant to be.
Wow.
And that's a very difficult thing to do for people.
Wow.
Because they're comfortable with who and how others view them. Their self-esteem, their self-love doesn't come from themselves. It comes from somebody else's opinion. And like I told my children since they were little, if you ever allow your self-worth to be determined by someone other than yourself, you're going to be disappointed because no one will ever value you the way you can value yourself. And that's what happens every day in relationships. Your partner doesn't value you as well, so your self-esteem, your self-worth is boiled up. Now he says, honey, you're beautiful. I feel great. I feel sexy. honey, it looks like you gained 20 pounds, or it looks like you're getting wrinkles in the face. It looks like your hair is getting whiter. Now I feel deflated, right? It shouldn't be about that. No one has the power to make you feel anything unless you allow it, because your self-worth, your self-esteem only can come from you. You can give that power to somebody else, but if you do, just suspect that you're going to be disappointed, because they will never love you, like you, be patient with you, and motivate you like you can do yourself.
Esa. Claro. When you speak, I'm going to share something about you now. Even, of course, the things you say are tremendous, have tremendous value to help people. I mean, the things that you say has such an impact through your own direct experience. Because you never once said, and I want to share this because there is something because of that. You never said, oh, and I don't know, I'm being a little out there, but oh, I read this book, for instance, I read the Bhagavad Gita, let's say Bhagavad Gita, and it's changed my life, and I'm going to share my experience from reading what I read in Bhagavad Gita. No. And this is important. You share through your own direct experience, which is the true teaching. This is what really is effective, touching people at their source, at their core, like this, through your own, through your own self, which is the only reality. So I share this because it's really important to me that this is happening. It has tremendous impact. It's by osmosis. Your voice, Dr. Fab, carries this wisdom. You could say, you will still make an impact. You could say, I am here now and nothing is happening and you're not speaking, and you could still make an impact. It is very beautiful. It's very rare. It's very beautiful. Anyway, I wanted to make sure that I shared this with you.
And I thank you for that. There's two things that I would say. So Father's Day yesterday, I have two boys, Gianni and Luciano. And beautiful. I've always felt like, and they tell me that my greatest gift to them was not to tell them what to do, was to show them what to do. And they both mentioned in the card they gave me what a profound example I have been in their lives, not by telling them, but by showing them.
Wow.
And then I have a dear friend of mine named John Nazareth, and John texted me this morning to wish me happy Father's Day. And he's doing, he's 63, or he's going to be 63, and he's like really health nut. And I said, I'm so proud that you have chosen to make your body the most important thing right now, because I know you're going to live a lot longer. So he took a picture of himself at his office today. So then I took a picture of myself, showing him what I was doing. And he texts us back. He says, you do the same, but the most beautiful thing is your smile. And what I wrote, and look at what I wrote. This is all intuitively, because you can't make this up.
Of course not.
So what I wrote to him, when he mentioned that statement, because I do get a lot of people telling me how much they love my smile. And I said to him, when he wrote that, thanks. My smile is an expression of my inner peace. And that's really all it is. The reason that people can smile is when they have peace inside of themselves. Because you can laugh and you can smile and fake it. And that's okay. Some people have to fake it until they feel comfortable smiling. But I always believe that a smile is the universal language that says, I'm open. I'm okay. I'm safe. You can talk to me. You can come to me. I do that I travel every week. So I go to different countries where I may not speak the language, but I also always know that even when I'm going through immigration, I just smile. And usually they comment on that. And I go in and get in my car and the driver, and I just smile. And I get in, check in the hotel, and I just smile. And all of a sudden, the connection with people, I haven't said a word,
See.
but it was a smile. But that smile, when it's authentic, it has to be rooted in something much deeper. And that's what came out today. I didn't even, never have said that before, but I do feel that inner peace. I wake up with that every day. I go to sleep with that every day because there's no second guessing anymore. There's just what it is. And you have to be okay with what it is at that particular moment. And if you're not, change it. You have the power to change it. Begin with your thoughts, lead to a new behavior that will lead to a different outcome. That's what I've discovered over the years. It's as simple as that.
It's the the magic, the key, I mean, wow. It is interesting how we put so much in us, we put so much intention to achieve, to become something, and how those little things actually are the biggest thing, the biggest key to our success. We somehow, no one is really there to guide them through that. We have a tendency to, to be certified in science coaching and all of these things, which is great, but somehow we're missing this, to tell people those true guidance. I mean, the smile, there's something biologically that happens when you smile to your brain that changes, shift things, and creates a new reality. It's so simple,
Right.
but to hear you say it, especially from someone who is extremely successful, that's the impact.
Yeah.
It's not somebody say, "Oh, just smile and it's going to be okay." No, you say it. You know what I'm saying? You got the science right. You gone through the hell and back. You gone through, and now you're successful, extremely successful, and you're a celebrity entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I am so glad you're here. I don't even have words, really. The peace, how to I travel a lot, and I do gatherings, satsangs, where people, satsang means community in within the truth, and gathering with the truth in Sanskrit, where people come and they're usually asking about, how do I find peace in my life and in my business? And how would you say, like, it has really nothing to do with the object outside of yourself? How would you guide someone to say, if might consider doing this little hack, and you'll find, this reflection within yourself, and this is where you have to travel within yourself? And most people, it's very hard to understand through the brain, something like that. Well, what do you mean? What do you mean I don't have to do anything? I just sit there. So how would you, because you did it, you've done it. Now it's simple to you, but it's not simple for people to do it. They go to retreat, they meditate for 30 years and still not at peace. So this is why I get along so well with you. But so how would you say something like, well, just wake up? I mean, what do you say?
We'll start with the science.
Okay.
So a few years ago, we discovered something that really shifted the way we understand ourselves. And that is when we started studying the brain. We were told for years that the brain did not change very much. I still remember my anatomy professors, physiology professors, biochemistry professors. And then about 15 to 20 years ago, we started realizing a new science called neuroplasticity, which shows us how the brain is constantly changing and adapting to our environment. And the brain is the computer, right? It's the hub of who we are. It's a foundation. Some people feel that the soul is actually within the brain rather than within the heart. Like some people will think the heart, some people think the brain. But the whole idea is this. In order to find that inner peace, what I found is one of the most powerful things you can do is to understand your purpose in life. Because without a true understanding and clarity of your purpose in life, you may be going through life based on somebody else's opinion and purpose rather than your own, which you'll never find enlightenment. You'll never find inner peace because it's not yours. You're just borrowing it. Sometimes we have to borrow it to get us out of our hole. That's fine. But ultimately, we have to find what it is ours, especially as we get older in life. So for instance, you gave me the example of a business. So sometimes people can be very successful on a business on the outside. They have more profit than expenses. They have a good brand. They may even have a nice building and a few thousand or maybe a few hundred employees, but they're empty inside because they're doing a business for the sake of survival rather than for the sake of service. A purpose must be about service. It can never be about survival. A true purpose has to be about the service of others. That's what I've learned in my short life. So for instance, my inner peace comes from the fact that when I make a decision about my business, it must be aligned with my purpose. And then of course, secondarily, my values. What are my values in my purpose? So for instance, my purpose could be supporting the health of humanity in a positive way, right? That's been one of my purposes for years. So in my world of health, in my world of that world of support, that is what drives my decisions. Is this going to support humanity for the better? Or is this going to not support it for the better? So many times I get approached by entities and companies that want to sell a product and want to promote a technology, but it may not be what may be supporting the health of humanity long term. Pharmaceuticals is a perfect example. Pharmaceuticals has the mindset that I'm going to override the wisdom of the body to try to create some kind of chemical to drive a reaction to the body, regardless of the negative impact or side effects. This is where it's failed. As a philosophy, it's failed because I have a dear friend of mine that is one of the top scientists in the world. And I asked him one time, I said, why do you feel you have been so successfully researched when most of your friends are having to work for universities and all that, barely making a living, when he has been extremely successful? He says, since I was very young, I learned that when my friends were trying to mimic the natural tendencies of the body to find a solution, they were trying to create a solution that was not outside of the body, that was outside of the body. What I did instead, I observed nature's tendency of how the body functions naturally, and I tried to do everything to support that function rather than to overcome it, to create something new. You see, he wasn't there to try to change nature. He was there to support nature's natural tendencies, right? I tell people that, unfortunately, most people feel that as we get older, we're supposed to be feeling sicker, feeling and looking older, not feeling our best, when in reality, I'm going to be 59 and I feel healthier, and I am healthier by every measurement, blood tests, urine tests, x-rays, MRIs. I am completely reversed my aging by at least 15 to 20 years.
At least.
I'm healthier today than I've ever been.
No, I mean, I can
Why?
see it. It's actually when you showed up, I was like, what? Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
but
wow.
the whole point is the fact that I understand that nature is aligned for me to live 120 plus years old. And that doesn't mean that I have to be sick. I read a great book called The Passion Test. And in that book, it has an exercise that really made an impression on me. The exercise was that once you discover your passion, now you have to write your 100th birthday year speech. And you have to actually write it like if you're giving it. What would you be saying 100 years from now once you have your passion? That's one of the tests for your passion. Is it your real passion or are you thinking? So anyways, I did that. And this was 20 years ago, 15, yeah, almost 20 years ago. So what I realized is that I'm here committed to living over 100 years old, healthy. One of my dear friends was Jack LaLanne. He lived to be 97 years old. His wife, I just got off the phone yesterday. She's 98.
Amazing.
She's going to be 99. She's already, and she's doing push-ups, sit-ups,
Awesome.
you know, and in her mindset, she's going to be 100. And she's going to show women today that you can still be 100 and be healthy.
That's awesome.
Do everything you want to do, you know? So going back to the topic, I believe that the key thing is that we must be clear with our purpose and make sure that our purpose have a set of values that are aligned with ourselves. So for instance, having integrity, thinking, saying, and doing the same thing is having integrity. If your thoughts are different than what you're telling other people, and that's different than what you're actually doing for other people, that's being out of integrity. Integrity means that you have integrity with your thoughts, with what you say to people, and what you actually do. So anyways, so that's a value. Another value is being honest, even when it hurts. Most of us don't want to hurt people around us, right? But you know what? Your best friends in life are not the ones that tell you what you want to hear. They're the ones that actually put you aside when it's appropriate and say, you know, I love you, right? And you know, there's nothing I wouldn't do for you. But this is what I'm seeing, and this concerns me. Now, explain to me why. Why are you doing this? And tell me that I'm wrong. Sometimes that is what it takes for somebody to recognize I'm not fooling anybody. You see, because we get caught up into our own lack of reality because other people support it.
Yep.
I'm going around telling everybody everything is fine, everything is great, but I can't pay my mortgage, I can't feed my kids, my car won't start, I don't even have a job. Right? And that's the reality. But everybody sees me happy. Oh, yeah, that's great, man. You're so lucky. Everything is great for you. So I believe that we have to have a clarity of purpose with a set of values that support that. And then every decision you make, whether it's personal or business related, if it's aligned with that purpose and it's aligned with those values, you're going to find that inner peace. It's that simple to me. But whenever I find myself not aligning my behavior with my purpose of my values, just to please somebody or just to be recognized or just to do whatever, I find myself always feeling a lack of peace, like something doesn't feel right. But when we make those decisions that feel right, there's nothing that can stop us, because we just know that even if it's, you know, some challenges ahead, that's okay, because at least you know you made that decision. I'll give you an example. I was running 3 major companies, about 500 employees, and I had a chairman of the board that asked me to make a decision that was not a decision I wanted to make. But he kind of influenced his power to say, well, if you don't make this decision, I'm going to have to do this, this, and that. And unfortunately, I had a weak moment. I made that decision. That decision cost me more pain in business than any decision I've ever made. And what's worse, I knew that it wasn't the right decision. So you know what's worse in life? When your own inner wisdom tells you what's right and wrong, and you listen to somebody from the outside that may or may not care about you, and you do what they say, and then that ends up being very hurtful, painful, traumatic in your life, and you knew it all along that you should have never made it. Now, I'm not going to beat myself up. So I went back. I apologized to the people that I did it to. In business, I realized that I made a mistake, regardless of the circumstances.
Wow.
Right? But it taught me a lesson never to do that again. It was in my younger years. It was many years ago. But it was one of those weak moments that I realized that I should never allow somebody else's opinion just because they're older, just because they're wiser, just because they've been in business longer than me, who they're more successful, they're wealthier, they're more powerful. Who cares? Because when it comes to your decisions, they must be yours and align with your purpose and your values. And when you do that, you will always make the right decision. Always.
So powerful. So powerful that when they hear you through this show, and when they hear you when you speak, but now that we're here through this show, the audience, when they hear you when they're sitting at home or driving, whatever they're doing, I would like for them to, this is what I would like that happens, to listen again and again and again and again, to put all the books and the teachings on hold, and to listen again and again and again, and not through the ears, not hearing, listening. Because this can potentially and radically give you everything that you desire. Unbelievable. And so, you know, this, your deliciousness, let's call it. I don't have a word for you. I said deliciousness. So transparent, so real, you know, like this. It's very powerful, so powerful. So I don't really have I have a mind, and I use the mind when necessary. So because I need to tell you, because you think probably I'm a little out there, but because I'm so here now, I literally don't remember the second ago. I don't, I really don't. I almost wanted to say, what were you talking about? Because I wanted to say something about what you just shared, and it's gone. But well, let it be gone. I mean, my poor
You don't
husband
need
is,
it.
I don't need it. I mean, that you're here now is just like,
Yeah,
it's all
that's
of
the most
it.
important thing.
So beautiful. Oh, okay. So Dr. Fab, your brand, can you, so intuitively that made sense for you, and then you went on with it. You talk about the core values, being clear about your purpose. So you're obviously an intuitive, but so your intuition guides you to Dr. Fab. How is that? How did that work out?
No,
What was the process for that?
it's different. So
I
my
don't know. I'm
first
asking because
name,
it's very, very, very interesting.
my father is Italian descent. So my father and my mother named me Fabrizio. So my first name is Fabrizio, which is a very unique name. I've only met maybe 7 Fabrizios in my whole life. So when I moved from Colombia to Miami in the United States, I went to a school that there were hardly any Hispanics. In fact, I was pushed back 2 years because they had no English as a second language. So instead of going to 7th grade, I went to 5th grade, which was something, but it taught me a great lesson after that. But so anyway, my friends didn't know how to say my name. So for whatever reason, somebody started calling me Fab. Instead of Fabrizio, they called me Fab. It was easy to remember. So then I became Fab. And then when I became a doctor, then people started calling me Dr. Fab. And what's interesting, I do media. I've been doing media for 30 years. And whenever I would go to a show, then people would say, oh, this is Dr. Fab. He's fabulous. So then it started tying into the word fabulous. And I was just saying to myself, this is something that I had nothing to do with. It was something that just happened.
Mm.
But and I have a new book coming out in a couple of months. This is my 5th book, and I'm writing everything I share with you is a lot of the essence of this book.
Beautiful.
Because I've always talked about health in my other 4 best-selling books. But this one, I wanted to bring it about life, about entrepreneurship, about everything that we discussed today. And my publisher wants me to call it The Fab Life. And the working title is The Fab Life, Creating the Life You Want, Regardless or Despite Your Circumstances. And I personally wanted something different than the Fab Life, but they want the Fab Life because they feel that that represents and embodies what I've been doing for 35 years, 37 years of my professional life. And so that's where we are. And I'm actually doing the final editing today and tomorrow. They're working on the cover right now.
Yes.
And but anyway, so I'm really excited because I'm being very transparent, very authentic in this book, very vulnerable. I learned that for being vulnerable is one of the most beautiful things we can do, to be authentic, especially with our children, because our children, if you're a successful parent, they look at you as, I can never be her, I can never be him. Right? So with my children, I've always shared with them more my mistakes, my experiences, than even my successes, because my successes doesn't define me, who I became. One time I was asked a question.
Wow.
Would you give us a lecture and talk about some of the most defining moments in your life? And this is a great exercise. So what I did, I spent about a week or 2 writing all the moments in my life, from the moment I was born that I could remember to where I was at that time. And I called the lecture Defining Moments. And I realized that over 90% of my defining moments in life were painful, were challenging, were negative. They were not the big successes. You know, I became one of the youngest presidents of a university in the United States. I have a library named after me in Mexico because I've helped that country with health and other things. All these accomplishments. No. What really defined me, helped me, shape me to who I am today, was not the pleasantries in my life. They were actually those challenges that most people want to avoid. They're the blessings in disguise. That's what I look for in life now. I look for the challenge because I know that if I'm not being challenged or uncomfortable, I will never grow, right? So the key to life is to learn to be uncomfortable to the point that you're comfortable with the uncomfortableness. And that's difficult to do because it's not pleasant.
No.
But imagine if you can live like that. Every day you're going to expect a lot of difficult challenges. But you know what? You're not going to be surprised. In fact, you're going to welcome them. And you're going to say to yourself, another opportunity to take myself to another level, to go to that destiny that I was born to be. You see, a whole different philosophy of living. Instead of what happens today, people want everything to be calm, everything to be perfect. I don't want any challenges. And then you got something happens, right? And then you fell apart. Oh my God, I'm having a nervous breakdown. I don't know what to do. In reality, that could be the greatest lesson, the greatest experience you can have. And now you're trying to negate it, push it away, instead of saying, calm, let's embrace it. Let's embrace that. Beautiful. And say, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? How can I become the kind of person that I need, the best version of myself through this experience, right? So that's what I've learned to do over the years. That has helped me a lot maintain that level of calmness. I'll never forget my assistant for the 14 years. She would say,
wow.
I work with different CEOs in my life. And she says, you're the only CEO that I see people coming in with a crisis and they're walking in smiling. He said, I don't know what you do to them there. And what I say to them is, I don't react as a CEO, I don't react negatively, just like as a parent. If you have a child that is going through a difficult time, let's say they made a mistake, right? And they're beating themselves up. They tell you and you freak out. Do you think they're going to tell you next time they make a mistake? No. But if you're calm and if you say, honey, you know what? No matter what you tell me, it's not going to change the way I love you. Wow. You're my child and I would always love you. Now the child can tell you, well, it's the same with employees. Wow. I had all these executives coming to me with chaos, financial chaos, the other kind of chaos. And what I did is that I would take a deep breath and I would ask them, take a deep breath and say, okay, let's break it down. You know, wow. Why do you think this is happening? What could we do differently? You know, how can we prevent this from happening again? What can we learn from this? How is this going to make us a better company? So instead of leaving, beating themselves up, coming into my office, they left empowered to realize that this challenge is okay. Life is full of challenges. Let's just not make big deals out of them. Let's embrace them and grow from them, right? So,
but this is what I mean earlier. Again, you prove that again. You don't tell your employees, go read this book, go sit down and meditate, go practice, I'm giving you a phone number for a coach or a therapist.
yeah.
You work with them directly.
Yeah.
You're the gateway, you know, for that transformation. Wow. Incredible.
And the best way to do it is by showing them that you've been where they are now. Showing them maybe a decision you made early in your career that seemed like it was the end of the world, and it ended up being the best thing you could ever done. So, and with children, the same, right? As a CEO or as a parent, it's my responsibility to guide them, right? And the best way to guide them is to be vulnerable. I learned that the more vulnerable that we become in life with our partners, with our businesses, with our employees, with our customers, the more authentic that we become. And when you're authentic, you relieve this huge burden and pressure that I tell people, it's like we wake up in the morning with a mask already in our face, because even our partner that's next to us doesn't even know all this stuff we're going through. And then we go out there and we have that mask to everybody that we come in contact with. When the beautiful thing about being authentic is you remove that mask, and now you don't even have to worry what are the small lies you had to tell along the way, because you're just being, you know, hey, you're having financial difficulty. Who hasn't, right? Who hasn't? So be okay with it. You know what? I'm going through a small setback. What's beautiful about it is that it's made me realize I needed to do this, and that in my business. I'm so excited about what's coming. You see, you can take the same challenge, or you can say, oh man, I'm so depressed. I can't do this. I can't do that. I don't have enough money coming in. I don't know if I'm going to lose the house. And then you go into that fear, right? The future. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep my job, blah, 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 blah. Instead of realizing none of that is a reality. It's all in my head.
It's all in my head.
Right? That's why it's so important when we talked about being in the present, is fear cannot exist in the present.
It doesn't exist.
Because fear is where the mind plays tricks on you and gives you the worst negative outcome in what you're experiencing and tells you that could be a reality for you in the future. It's not even happened, and you're already living with the emotional chaos that is already happened when it hasn't even happened. So in order to remove fear, you stay in the present. What does this mean today? And what can I do today to ensure that this doesn't happen tomorrow? And that's called empowerment. Empowerment is when we remind ourselves at the end of the day, we're still in control. We can control our emotions. We can control our thoughts. We can definitely control our behaviors, even though some people don't think they can. right? I mean, I often laugh with people because for years I've been, when I do the media, they have me do New Year's resolutions. And one of the top 3 New Year's resolutions every year, guess what it is?
Be present.
Losing weight.
Losing weight.
So I tell
I
people,
mean, for the audience.
no, for the world. Yeah,
for the world,
for the world.
for the world. Yeah. Okay.
So I always laugh, right? Because I always say, okay, I'm sure this year there's going to be a new diet. There's going to be probably 5 or 7 books on diets. There's going to be this. But the reality is that the only reason, this is what I've learned over the years, or not the only, but the main reason why people suffer with what they eat is not because they don't know what's good for them, right? If I was to ask you, tell me what are some of the foods that you can eat today that will make you feel great, that will be great for your body, right? You would know. But then when I tell you tomorrow, when I ask you tomorrow, so what did you eat yesterday? You would tell me it was the same things that were not good for you. So this is what I've learned. When it comes to food, there's an emotional association that most people have not paid attention to. So I give you an example. So having a Colombian Italian family, right? So if your grandma is making this pasta and is making this special sauce that's been in our family forever and is sharing all that love for you, right? Now I go to somebody that tells me I can have pasta, I can have that rich sauce. Guess what they're telling me? You can accept grandmother's love.
That's right.
And that's the problem.
That's the problem.
The reason is that people have not learned to create emotional connections that were positive with the new foods that they're wanting to eat. So they have the emotional connections with the stuff we don't want to eat anymore, but it's not sustainable unless you create new emotions, new feelings that are positive with those people around you that you love, with the new foods. That's sustainable. If they just do that, they could actually change the way they eat.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow. I mean, wow, right? Like, and isn't it going back to feeling safe again?
Yeah.
The food that you eat, isn't it something like I feel
it's
safe?
an emotion. It's your feelings, right? It's your feelings. If your father grilled steaks, right, when you were younger, and that was his sign of love, and now you go to a doctor that says you got to go vegan,
no,
you're saying, don't accept my dad's love anymore.
That's right.
How do you do that? Because anytime you're looking for your dad's love, guess what you're going to crave? The grilled steak.
Wow.
Anytime you're looking for your mom's love, you're going to crave whatever your mom fed you.
Cookies. Wow.
Cookies.
Or whatever. But
isn't that funny? We just unfortunately, I have a way of breaking down things in simplistic formats where people don't have to get complicated, right? And they can just test it.
It's so beautiful because it's so kind of, I mean, I don't want to say that. I'm just saying it to say it's kind of stupid simple because it's so evident. It's so evident, right? But yet it's not. So thank God.
Everything that's natural is always simple. We make it complicated.
Of course, but I just thank God that you're here in this timeline to be like this with people so they can really see clear. Wow, I can actually do this. I can actually change. I can actually go through the veil of ignorance now, and I can actually change my life and the life of others so I can give permission to others to do it too.
Yeah. So imagine this. Let's go back to the example of grandma. Your grandma's still living. And now you're going to say, hey, grandma, I love the way you make that salad. Can we make a salad together? Today, I want to eat a little lighter. Can we create a salad together? Maybe get in the kitchen and do the salad with your grandma. Create that bond, create that experience, create that love. Watch her do it with love. Watch her serve it to you with love. Now you just replace you just added a new, better, more positive eating experience with the same type of love that your grandma was putting on the other stuff that may not be as good for you. So that's what I mean by replacing the emotions. So if your partner and you, right, all of a sudden when you started dating and courting each other, there were certain things that you like. If you live in Texas like me, let's say you ate barbecue, but now your cardiovascular doctor is telling you got to cut out the barbecue, right? Now that's going to make you feel, my gosh, I'm just taken away from those memories, right? So now you take your partner and now you say, hey, why don't we create new experiences where we can share that love that we have for each other, but on something a little bit healthier. And that's how you start replacing, because what the neuroscience of neuroplasticity says is that when you shift a new behavior that is really emotionally driven, the emotion is the key. You have a lot of feelings around it. It would actually replace the old one with the new one. And that's how you change who you are. So that's what's beautiful about the new science of neurology, is the fact that we can actually alter who we are by simply changing and creating new behaviors that are very emotionally charged. So the brain can actually create these new pathways, new memories, and then release the old ones that were not as healthy for us.
So I can see how you, probably a good friend was our friend, Dr. Porter, Patrick Porter.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot to talk about. I know you're probably.
I just finished it.
I know. I have mine here. I was just going because he's the.
I was doing it before the interview because I use the alpha waves to actually calm my brain to allow me just to be, because it's one of the most beautiful felt. This is one of my most favorite technologies, and to this day, my kids say it's the best gift I've ever given them. Of all the things I've ever given them, they say that gift, they use it every day because it helps them change the thoughts or the belief systems that are holding them back. And there's no greater gift than that, I think.
No, there is no great. I mean, what else is there that would change generation to come?
I know.
I'd worked with Dr. Porter. It's actually the sponsor for the show, but Dr. Porter and I worked together and I recorded a whole session in French because they was missing so I'm the French voice for Dr. Porter.
Oh, beautiful. So you have some of the sessions in French?
Yeah, in French.
Yeah, he's got me to do some in Spanish too.
Yeah. He's making us work. He's such a beautiful soul.
Great, though.
Yeah, it's
I
great.
know. Yeah.
I know you probably we need to wrap up for you mostly. And your new book is coming up about, you said 2 months? Or is it something
in
I
a
can
couple
share
of
on the
months,
show?
we're putting the final touches on the editing. So I had a couple of editors that go through it.
Sure.
And we make sure that everything is good. And then I'm doing now the final edit. So I have to go through it one more time. And I started 3 days ago, and I'm hoping that by tomorrow I should be done.
Oh my goodness.
And then hopefully they'll put all that together, they'll lay it out, and then I'll get my proof that will look exactly like the ones that we're bringing to the world. So writing a book is a very exciting experience. I encourage people to do it at least once. It's not an easy experience, but it's one that you learn so much about yourself through that process.
Sure. And this is about life, a little bit of leadership, a little bit of everything.
Leadership, entrepreneurship,
beautiful.
Everything that we talked about today, that's really what the book is all about. And it's got so many tips. One of the things I'm doing in this book that is new for me is that I wanted to create at the end of each chapter how to implement what I just taught you.
Beautiful.
Because what I've learned is that I can inspire you and enlighten you, but then how do you get it into your life? How do you put it into action? So what I did is I gave you probably about an average of 10 action steps that have been proven to be able to create what it is that I just talked about.
Nice.
And I'm doing that on every chapter.
Wow.
My last book, I did the last chapter, I did a 21-day process of how you can self-heal. So the whole book was the power of self-healing. And then the last chapter, I created a 21-day program to teach you how to self-heal. This one, I said, you know what? There's still a big percentage of people that never read all the way through. I think it's over 60%. So why not give it after every chapter? And it came to me, and now I created the activities for every chapter, which is very exciting.
You do it through all intuition. I love it. I love it. It's so
Yeah, you just have to
powerful.
play with it.
So
And it has to be
powerful.
you, right? It has to be you.
Of
I've never
course.
seen any of my friends that are authors do that, but it just came to me.
So good.
And I'm like, I would like a book that show me how to do that.
Oh my gosh, do you know how many testimonials you're gonna have? You need to hire, like, I don't know, a team of 20 people just to keep up with the testimonial.
It's gonna be
Literally.
fun. It's gonna
It's
be fun.
incredible.
Yeah.
What is your link to go to when they say, okay, now I wanna, buy the last book or this, but what's the
Everything in
link?
me is my website, because from
That's
my
it.
website you can get all of
Everything.
my podcasts, my TV shows,
Got it.
everything I do
Okay.
is from my website, drfabmancini.com.
Perfect.
And there it tells you my schedule of events. So
Nice.
also if you want to come see me,
Of
it
course.
tells you, I have a mentoring program that sometimes you have people that want to mentor with me.
Uh-huh.
And I've been very selective. I've never advertised it, but in the website, people can say, I may need, and it's so interesting.
Sure.
Initially, I started it 8 years ago. It
Okay.
was a whole year. And now I do it month to month.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people that pay a whole year in advance and they get 2 months free. But sometimes people may need some support for a month or 2 months. Sometimes people are launching something and they need help on that launch, or sometimes they have a challenge that they're really wrestling with and they just need somebody to bounce it off of it. So I've been very fortunate, and some of the people in that group are just so amazing.
Oh,
I
so
always feel
beautiful.
very honored anytime that I can support with my experiences somebody else's journey, and hopefully help them
Of course.
accelerate that level of success.
Oh, beautiful. Any final words of wisdom that comes to you?
Well, I'll
Just
finish with one thing, because I
yes.
think it's important, especially at times like this that we're
Hmm.
experiencing, and that is that somewhere, if you were inspired by anything you heard here, the one message that I will give you is that if it resonated with you, it's because there is something inside of you that reminds you that you're worth it. See, the biggest challenge that I see today, why young kids, instead of valuing their body, they submit their bodies to a lot of different things. People in business, sometimes they cheat, they steal, they lie just because they want to get ahead. I've seen too many things in life, and what I find is that the underlying foundation for that is a lack of self-worth, a lack of self-love. So I want you, if you're listening right now, to know that you are worth it. You are worth it. And it's time for you to start telling that to yourself every day. My dear friend Louise Hay, I got to know her very well because we were lecturing together. And she said to me, one of the greatest things she shared with me, she said, people don't realize that I wake up every morning, look at myself in the mirror and saying, Louise, I love you. She said, Fab, without kidding you, there were some days that I would never hear those words by anyone else. There were some weeks that I would never hear those words by anybody else. So we must give ourselves first. So when I was telling you about my mission in 1987, I wrote my mission for life. And my mission for life has not changed, is to learn to unconditionally love myself. So I must learn to unconditionally love others. That's 1987. It took me 4 hours to write that, because I've come down to the understanding that unconditional love for oneself is the foundation for more money, more health, better relationships, a greater life, more freedom of time. Everything you want in life comes from you knowing that you are worthy of it. Because if you don't feel that you're worthy of it, even if you attract it, you're going to sabotage it. How many times have we seen people that have attracted tremendous wealth? Well, let's take the lottery, right? So right now, the latest studies have shown that within 2 years, 95% of the lottery winners end up in the same or worse financial circumstance than they did when they
Before.
won the lottery.
Mhm.
And why is that? It's because if I don't think I'm worthy, I'm going to bet on a lottery to make me feel worthy. I win the millions of dollars, and guess what happens? I start attracting everyone in my life that wants a piece of it. Then I started attracting financial advisors that have their best interest, not my best interest. Then I start attracting relationships of people that marry me or want to be with me just because of what I can give them. Then you start attracting business deals that don't make any sense. You don't even know how to make the deal, but you still do it because you have the money.
Mhm.
And then you end
Wow.
up 2 years later or earlier in the same or worse. And it's all because your self-worth, because when you know your self-worth, you know what you have, and you also know what you don't have. You have to know your strength to also accept your weaknesses, right? And to me, that's why I wanted my life mission to be about me, to learn to love myself unconditionally, because it all begins. See, I didn't tell you that my mission was to help feed the hungry in Africa. I have no power over that. I can help them, but you have to have a mission that is about what you can do, not about others, but what you can do for you. Because by you doing it for you, it gives you the power to do it for others. That makes sense?
No,
So
no.
that's will be my final word is know that you're worth it.
Not only it makes sense, but it makes sense. It makes sense. This is it. But you know what's so interesting? I did the same thing. I lay down before you got here. I lay down like this and, did my thing. And this came to me and it says, oh, this is the show. It says the wise man didn't say, um, uh, change the world. He says what?
Change me.
Change me to change the world.
The only way we can do it. It's the only thing we have control over.
And I can't believe you're ending with this because I literally wrote it down. This is so incredible, right? You finished and closed the whole loop. Done and done.
Perfect.
Wow, I love you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, by the way.
Wow.
And thank you for all the work you do for others.
Of course.
And I feel honored. I'm looking forward to hearing it myself when it comes out.
I can't wait.
I may learn something.
Oh, I doubt it. I think you're done, okay? Let's put it that way.
Oh, no. I'm just beginning. I promise you, I wake up every day realizing I'm just beginning.
Of course, in a different way. But now it's like in this enlightenment, what can you do? What else are you going to, you know what I'm saying? It's just you and you and you. It's just this. Okay. I so much love for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Many
I appreciate you.
Divine blessings. Thank you. Ooh, wow. I am also like you, if you have listened to the show, to this episode with Dr. Fab, not trying, but really settling into the wisdom that he shared through his direct experience, very, very direct. And this is what could really help someone on their path through success and happiness and love and wisdom, like this, to realize the self, is to be able to listen in a silent kind of way. You want to listen to this episode in a silent kind of way because Dr. Fab shared so many keys. But if you don't pay attention, and you're either in the past or busy with the mind, you will miss it. So my suggestion is that you listen over and over and over and over again. And then maybe 6 months later, you listen to this again. Because things will change in your life. Relationship will come and go. Business transaction will change as well. You will emotionally also change, go to the ups and down, which is duality, this life called, I like to call the holy chaos. But he had a way to transmit his light, his wisdom. And he referred to as neuroplasticity, which is the ability for the brain to be able to, according to this science, to change the dynamic of the pathway of your brain to be able to have different results. So I encourage you to go to his website, um, and also to really dig a little bit more about, you know, his breakthrough, his story. I mean, please listen to the beginning of the show when he shared his death and life situation. That was the blessing in disguise. So I'm asking you, how many opportunity, like he said, everyone, each one of us, we all have the circumstances. We can either be victim or victorious about it. You have the choice to respond to that circumstance. Because if you create a new emotion and you decide to let go of the past, if you want to cut off from the suffering, you must be cut off from the past, because mind means past. I mean, that's maybe a different show, but coming back to his wisdom, he shared about this science of neuroplasticity. Um, and it's so interesting, and you must pay a closer attention, because he gave you some nugget that you can take action right now if you really wanted to. If you have enough push, you know, in your belly, if you have suffer enough, if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you know that there is those that are stepping into this platform, this podcast called Mystical Mavericks, which you are. That's why I call this platform, because you're a mystical maverick, and you are here to be able to hear from those who have done it, and not just having success, but they have self-actualized, they have self-realized, they have self-enlightened themselves, for you that to be able to take action. Can you imagine listening to someone like that and be able to have the map for happiness, success, freedom? Come on. And this is why I take the time. This is why I'm passionate about those conversations. Because if you take it to the next level, if you really, really want something different in your life, you would choose even one nugget, one key, and you will see the result and the transformation in your life, in your business. So one things that he revealed is also be clear. Be clear with your purpose. You know, be clear with your purpose. Why are you here? Who are you? Why are you here? Um, so also be vulnerable. That was a big deal, because a lot of time we don't speak about that, because it's like kind of self-evident, or it's like one of those suggestion that might seem too simple. Like, what does that really mean to be vulnerable? You know what I'm saying? But if you listen to him, and you can see even on the video how vulnerable he is speaking with me like this, it's very powerful, because it opens up a place within the one who's listening, that it gives permission to the other to do the same. And being vulnerable also holds holds power, holds power energically. You know, when you're vulnerable, you let your heart melt like this. You let your heart feel, and that heart filled energy in expansion versus contraction. So this expansion means that you're expanding upon. And when you open up like this, when you open up to what is, to the people around you, to, you know, you really expose yourself. It's very uncomfortable, but yet it's so powerful, because it becomes a core value that becomes necessary, and you will use it more and more, you know. And you can, and it's okay to share your true self, your true face. It's okay one day to not be okay. You know what I'm saying? In this generation, in this country as well, it's so easy to mask things up. With technology today, it's easy to mask, you know, we have the filters, we have all these things going on, and nobody really is able to surrender like this, to melt into what is. It's very difficult for someone today to do it, because also of the technology that we're so used to have to be a certain way, perfect for someone else to look at. Or and what he's saying, Dr. Fab says, you know, be vulnerable. This is going to be, it's attractive. Actually, it's I'm sorry to say, but being vulnerable, I think it's very sexy. And if you're an entrepreneur, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a beautiful thing. Um, Also, um, the power of self-healing. That's one of his book. And then at the end, to close it up, he spoke about the foundation. You know, he suggests that the foundation for all of your desires, happiness, love, success, all of those things have to do with your own self. And the foundation is to love yourself unconditionally. I mean, this, and yes, it's been said, all the great wise men have said it, right? From Buddha to, you know, so many have shared it. Uh, but the truth is that you really take it, take it, take it to that level, really understand what that means to love yourself unconditionally. And even if you say it, I'm saying it right now, and oof, it's very, very, it's very powerful. Just to say it out loud is powerful. So imagine, excuse me, imagine saying it to yourself. Imagine what can that change for you. So why don't you start today? Like he said, Louise Hay, every morning she gets up in the mirror and tell herself, I love you. Why don't you start today? It doesn't take time to do this. Why don't you do it? You know, choose to do something different so you get a different result. So you get out of the insanity, right? The insanity. In the mind, we do the same thing over and over and over again, and we get the same results. Why don't you choose today, right after this show, when you're done listening, why don't you go to the mirror and say, I love myself unconditionally. And look at yourself and tell yourself, I love you. I am safe. I am connected to that love. Do you know what I'm saying? So he shared the pattern of relearning something to get a different result, right? Very, very powerful episode. I am very grateful that each one of you are here. Whether you are in a car listening or at home or wherever you are, know that there is a background of your life, a background. No matter what belief you have or circumstances, know this radically in your brain, in your heart, in your cells, that there is background, a background in your life. And this background is divinely orchestrated. And somehow, without you being in the middle of it, without you interfering, without your ego trying to change or control it, that no matter what it is, this background is pointing you, guiding you, also bringing the people in your life. Trust in that background. There is peace, where you feel safe, where it's permanent. That background don't change. Now your life might change because it's the nature of life, and the things might come and go. But this peace, this background, it is in fact what you are. That whatever you seek in your life, it's seeking you. And so what I'm asking for you to do today is to listen to Dr. Fab, to pause whatever is happening in your life for a few minutes, and to reflect upon, what is my purpose? And what action I'm going to take today to be able to transcend my suffering? Because I want to know in my heart that there is happiness there. There is peace. There's divine love. There is bhakti, devotion. I want you to do this, and you can access this. You can diffuse it in the world. You can be transferring this to other people. And also, once it's done, the beauty of this is that you will see it in the others as well. So less separation, less friction, more unity, more love. So we're so grateful for Dr. Fab to have taken a moment, in the moment, within a moment, in this instant in time, to be with us. Thank you so much for listening. Love yourself. Trust yourself. Thank you so much. À bientôt. Bisous, bisous. Ciao, ciao.
You have just listened to another enlightening episode of Mystical Mavericks. Please visit mysticalmavericks.com for additional resources and to learn more about our mentorship, giveaways, and gatherings. Be sure to subscribe and share so you don't miss the next episode of Mystical Mavericks.